Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rising Stories podcast. Each week, you'll hear me interview a business owner or an author. They will share their stories with us on how they started their business and how they keep their businesses running. But first, I want to give a special thank you to a listener who left a comment on iTunes. She writes, I loved listening to each of these interviews and I look forward to listening to future ones. It was very encouraging to me as an entrepreneur to listen to the stories of other businesswomen. Listening to their life stories, their dreams, their struggles, and their successes was very encouraging, and I learned a few things I will be using in the future. Thanks, Esmaita G. I love hearing from listeners, so please leave me a comment on iTunes or Stitcher and let me know how I'm doing and if you like the show. You can also connect with me on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And all the show notes for these shows and past podcast shows are on CorineSandiford.com under Rising Stories Podcast. My guest today is Kayla Fioravanti. Kayla is a writer, a speaker, and a blogger, and she runs several businesses. One of the things she does is she helps other authors publish their books through her company called Kayla Press. I know you're going to really love hearing her and listen to her story. So here's my conversation with Kayla. Hi, Kayla.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to Rising Stories. It's my podcast. You're here.
Yay.
After all this time, we've been kind of going back and forth, and I'm like, I got to get her on here. So, well, I was just reading your stuff, and like I said earlier, when we hopped on the call, I'm like, I am exhausted already. I was like, how does she do it? And that's one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, because of all the people that I know personally that live near me, that are in my circle of friends, I mean, I feel like you would be the busiest, but you're always so calm and cool and collected. And what is it? Like, how do you do that?
What is it?
Because you are like a wife, mother, you're an award-winning author. I just looked at those author stuff, like your awards on your website, and I was like, dang, I didn't know she had all these awards. I would have been really intimidated to ask you had I seen those before. But
That's funny.
And you live here in the Middle Tennessee area, as I do, and your husband is an entrepreneur. Also,
Yeah.
you have 3 kids, 3 cats, 6 chickens, 1 dog, and a herd of bison.
Yes, I've added a puppy and 6 more chickens.
You did not.
I did, yes.
A puppy on top of everything.
A puppy just to throw a little chaos into it all.
Oh my gosh. I can't imagine. So tell me about yourself.
Well, I actually retired several years ago. This is my retirement.
This is your retirement?
Yeah, sort of. I'm not very good at retirement, obviously. I sold my business in 2011. And I had started a business with my husband out of our kitchen in 2001. And we sold it, and I retired. And we moved here to Franklin, Tennessee. And I just started writing books. And I thought I would just write my own books and, happily do that. And then people started asking me how to self-publish. And I kept getting more and more requests. So I was like, okay, I'll write a book on how to self-publish so that people can do that. And from there, I discovered people really, even though they had the book and the information, they really wanted somebody to help them walk through the process.
Yes.
So this year I opened up my publishing company to other authors.
And that's Kayla. How do you say that? Kayla Press?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Kayla Press.
And so you have a company where you help other authors publish either like Kindle, you do it all. You do the
right, paperback or Kindle, and I either will walk the whole process for them, take care of it all, or I'll do portions of it a la carte. a variety of different ways, really just to kind of meet people where they are and what they need.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's so needed because I come across so many people that want to write books and they have these great stories. And of course, you and I met because we're in a writers group together
Right.
in Franklin. And we have been for what? Well, I think I came right after it started. I don't even remember how
Oh,
long it's
I
been
think,
going on.
yeah, I've
Years.
lived here for 4 years, and I found it shortly after getting here.
I think I've been attending about 4 years. Of course, I don't attend very often because it's a ways from my house, but I do try to keep up with everybody and go, and I enjoy it. And it helps when you connect with other
Yes.
writers too
Yes, definitely.
to continue your journey and kind of press on, and people encourage you and to keep going. So, how did you? It says you started publishing. You did your first book at 16.
I started publishing in anthologies at 16.
Oh,
I started
wow.
writing in fifth grade and decided that my goal in life was to become a famous poet. That was my original goal in life. But I discovered there's not much money in poetry and not a really huge audience, but I still love it. So I do have a poetry book. But yeah, I started publishing at 16 and continued doing that through my early 20s. And then I just got really busy as a businesswoman. And then in
Yeah.
2011, I discovered self-publishing, and that changed my world. I've published 8 books since then.
You have a lot of books that you've published. Your latest is Puffy and Puffy and Blue.
Yeah, it's Puffy and Blue, The Chronicles of 9 Lives Together is my latest book. It's about my childhood cat and I. We lived 21 years together moving around the world, and it chronicles our lives and journey. And then I did a second edition of How to Self-Publish
Mm-hmm.
in in this last year as well.
And I have both of those books. Like I bought the first one, and then when I saw that you had re-released it, I was like, oh, well, I need that one. Have I cracked it open? No. But and I think that's to me. I love books, but sometimes things can be overwhelming. However, I think that it's very helpful to have the book and also go through some of your stuff, some of your workshops and some of your, because then you can kind of look back and go, oh yeah, some of the things that you're telling people as they're going along. I think it's like a handbook. It really
Right.
does. And I did crack the first one open, and I have looked through it, and I love how you really and truly take them step by step. I mean,
Yes.
literally step by step on how to self-publish a book. It's amazing
Yeah,
that
it is very
you
detailed.
are so detailed like that, because I'm not. I'd be like, yeah, just go here and do that. And then there'll be like 200 questions, but you answer all, you really do take them from point A to point B.
I had a group of team editors who helped me, and I did, basically a big group of people who read and gave me feedback. And my
Oh,
audience was really from young to old and experienced and tech savvy to untech savvy. And so they
okay.
really helped me say um,
This is
in many
missing. Yeah.
languages. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something missing. Yeah,
Right.
that's awesome. Yeah, and you've got all kinds of stuff. You're into aromatherapy. You wrote a book, The Art, Science, and Business of Aromatherapy, Your
Hmm.
Guide for Personal Aromatherapy and Entrepreneurship. I like that. Yeah, I remember that book. And then you've got, and then you do Puffy and Blue, which is
Right.
so different. And then I think probably my favorite one is the 360 Degrees of Grief,
Mm.
the Reflections of Hope. And you got a lot of notoriety for that. Like you were on the 700 Club, is that right?
The book was,
Oh, the
and
book.
but the
Oh,
book
okay.
itself, because it had 64 authors, and some of the authors were
Oh.
famous. So,
Who's
so
famous on there? Like who?
well, Clay Cross is in there, and
Okay.
Steve Green, and Wayne Watson, and several other Christian music, and some well-known professors and leaders in colleges and stuff are in there,
Mm-hmm.
Christian colleges. So it got a lot of publicity because of that. And I was also gifted with some PR time with a company.
Oh,
And so
wow.
I did a ton of TV, radio, a lot of different interviews with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the book made its tours with the well-known authors as well.
Wow, that's really cool that you were able to put that together, and I think it's really something that people can look back and use when they're in their time of grief. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
taken back because I have a good friend who just recently lost her husband, and I think, oh, this would be a really good book. There's
Right.
so many situations where you're grieving. Every grief is different, and I think
Right.
you cover a lot of those aspects of grief and different types of grief and situations.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really helpful. That's a really good book.
Thank you.
So how in the world do you do? So you're also like you have a herd of bison,
Yes.
like literally a herd of bison in. I know you have a big compound. You have a
Well, I live on 12 acres, but the bison live on 110 acres elsewhere.
okay.
So yeah, they are
You're
not
like our
really kind of,
pioneer woman.
yeah.
You're like our local pioneer woman.
Yeah, my husband has a business called Red Cedar Bison,
Okay.
and so I help out with that, with writing recipes and creating the web content for the website, and so I basically use my writing skills to help out,
Hmm.
and then my science background helps out with making really cool, fun recipes that people sample at the market, and
Yeah, I've
you know,
been there,
yeah,
sampled it.
yes.
I need to go back. I haven't been lately, but yeah, I'll see you early in the morning at the farmer's market
Yes.
and doling out like fajitas and
Yes.
everything's like bison, and it was delicious. I loved
Oh,
it. And there was
oh, thank you.
the most interesting thing though was I came up one time and you said tongue. I have bison tongue. And then
Yes.
I said, "Hey, I'm Mexican, so I've had tongue before, and
Yes.
and I liked it. So
Yes.
I tried bison. I was brave enough to try the bison tongue, and it was delicious.
That was a fun day. We had both regular taco meat and the bison tongue, and
Yeah.
we were giving people like, what do you want? The daring experience, or do you want to stay safe? And most people went with the daring experience. We ran out of tongue samples before we ran out of regular samples,
Yeah.
and people loved it. It is delicious.
When I've served it when my kids were little, I hope they're not listening, but I didn't tell them it was beef tongue. I just served
Oh,
it. They just
right,
thought it was pot roast. A
right. It
really
tastes.
tender, it tastes like a
Mhm.
really tender pot roast.
Right,
To-
right.
And I'm
It is.
yeah, yours did too. Um, I don't know how you do it though. How are you at the farmer's market with food and you're a writer and blogger, you're a wife, a mom, you have chickens. I can't even start to tell everybody all the things again, what all you have because it's exhausting.
That's funny.
What does your day look like?
Well, it depends on the day of the week because it's my week is really scheduled. So like today is Thursday, so it's the last day that I kind of co-work on things for Sailor Press and other things. Friday, Saturday are 100% Bison business.
Okay.
Um, I also
Like all day.
part-time. Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much Friday and Saturday is Bison and nothing else. I don't accomplish anything for the other stuff. And then I also part-time homeschool. My daughters go part-time to school and part-time home.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's the days of homeschooling, that's kind of intermixed in there as well.
Wow.
Um, but I get up really early. I don't sleep very well, so it works out fine. And
Yeah. Is
get
early
up,
like
take care of all the
5?
critters.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, take care of all the animals, go through, feed everybody, get everyone where they're supposed to be situated, then feed all the indoor humans, and then, so,
Wow.
and after that, then I, once it's quiet in the house and I've sent my kids off to school or they're working on their projects,
Mm-hmm.
I work at my computer, and I basically schedule working at my computer around when everybody else is busy.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
um,
And
that's
then tell me your process of how you started writing, like when you've got a book, because I think you're writing something right now. What do you?
I am. I'm writing the top 10 best chili recipes, bison chili
Oh,
recipes.
wow.
Yeah, so part of like that's a really good lesson in itself is I sat down to write a cookbook, like
Mm-hmm.
a whole bison cookbook, and during NaNoWriMo month, which is National Write a Novel in a Month, in
Oh, yeah. I
November.
didn't do that.
Yeah, I'm crazy. It always do. So during that, I wrote an entire cookbook because it's
Whoa.
50,000 words. And then it sat there untouched because it was just too big of a project to edit and work on.
Uh-huh.
And then there was a chili cook-off where we won the chili cook-off. And I thought, you know what would be smarter is if I just capitalize on
The
this
chili.
win and do 10 chili recipes. And then what if I do 10 burger recipes, all bison,
Yeah.
and make it into smaller projects that I could handle.
Mm-hmm.
Time wise, plus it makes the books less expensive and easier to sell. So that's what I've done is I've switched that to being this really big long cookbook to multiple little cookbooks.
Okay. Yeah. But okay, let's back up. So during the national, what was it called again? I've got a tons of
NaNoWriMo.
right
Yeah, so
month.
it's National Write a Novel in a Month.
Okay, yeah, I didn't do it. Although I was inundated with emails. Of course, our group was doing it, our writers
Yeah.
group was doing it, and I looked at the criteria. I was like, okay, I cannot do that. Like
Right.
I do not. So how? But then I feel shame now that I didn't do it because like you are so much more busier than I am, and you did it, and you wrote a whole book, and you actually did it all. How did
Right.
you like? Did you section off days? Like, okay, I'm gonna write because it was a lot. There were a lot
It's
of
a lot of writing.
it was a lot of words per day, right? It was
Right. It's 16,667, I think,
per day.
per day. Yes.
Like I think I might write that a week, but per day.
Right. It is a lot of writing. I also, this last one was crazy and was doing a blog challenge at the same time, blog every day for 30 days.
Uh-huh.
That kind of went into that. So, I do a lot of planning. So in order to accomplish both of those at the same time,
Uh-huh.
before the national novel writing one started, I had scheduled 90% of those blog posts. So they were already planned and scheduled and going.
Okay.
And sometimes I used material that I had used elsewhere. So like I might use a section of one of my books or something as a blog post. I just created a schedule, and then that helped me fill in the blanks.
Okay.
Um, I'm very big on create a plan and a schedule, and then fill in those blanks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the same thing what I did with the cookbook was I wrote what I thought each recipe should be, or each section of recipe should be,
Mm-hmm.
and then I start writing those. I also wrote Puffy and Blue during NaNoWriMo month.
Oh, you did? Wow.
Not this year, but several years
Several years
before.
ago.
Yeah, so
I gotta
I
jump on
find
that. I guess I'll be more prepared next year. I need to just like write the dates down and be more prepared, and maybe I'll
right.
be able to do it. But that's
Knowing you
where,
have it coming in advance makes, and planning ahead by writing out those chapter ideas and kind of
okay.
having a map for yourself. And you're just kind of filling in those sections. I actually have a freebie on my website, sayla-press.com,
Yeah.
and it just says freebie. So click on it. And then there's a PDF you can download that tells you how to start writing your first book.
Yes.
So if you
Okay.
were to do those steps in advance of NaNoWriMo month, then you'd be prepared. Because I do this for every book before I write it. And I had done all
Wow.
those steps on my 2 book ideas for NaNoWriMo month, and then chose which one to go with.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna do that after we hang up. I'm gonna I'm going to get that freebie, and I'm
Yes.
going to be ready next year. Because
Yeah.
I have a book I want to write. I have several, obviously, but they're all in my head, and they're scribbled in little papers and pieces of papers all over my house.
Right.
Don't tell anybody, but
I
but
get it.
but they're not all put together. I think that will help me put it all together. So I'll have to check that out. Yeah, I think
Yep.
people should check that out because it sounds like it would get me organized. Because I always
That.
wondered how you start when it's
Hmm.
all in your head, jumbled in your head, but not on paper. So
Right.
that would be a template, a plan. So
Hmm.
cool. So tell me, so you got your Bison Market, you've got Sailor Press, you've got Kayla, um,
Fioravanti.com.
Fioravanti.com. I'm working on your name, Fioravanti. Um, and and then you've got your kids, and you've got uh, you do stuff with friends, and like
Hmm.
how do you unwind?
How do I unwind?
Yeah.
I I have a very set ritual at night to try because I'm a very bad sleeper, so I
Okay. What is
actually
it?
work on unwinding.
Okay.
So Um, for me, it's I take a bath and read fluffy material, like fluffy stuff, like People magazine, just fluffy,
Yeah.
in the bath. And as an aromatherapist, I obviously use aromatherapy during my bath time.
Which ones do you use? What do you use?
I'm a huge fan of lavender, so I
Okay.
use that.
Hmm.
I also have asthma, so I use myrrh sometimes, which helps with that, and also is
Okay.
nice and relaxing. So it just kind of depends on how I feel. And then after I taken my bath time, then I have a Kindle and I read a fluffy fiction book that
Okay.
has
Like a
I
couple
just need
chapters or something. Like what's a
right.
fluffy you said Christian or just any kind of
I read Christian fiction,
okay.
and but I make sure it's always just fluffy, like a really you know what's going to happen before you get there kind of thing,
Hmm.
and you don't have to stay up all night reading it because you want to know
Right.
what happens. Kind of that's my definition of fluffy
Yeah.
is it's a formula, and
Yeah.
you just and they're just following the formula, and you don't have you just can enjoy the characters
Yes.
without without getting too overly involved. So and then that generally is what gets me to sleep. That's how I unwind from the day, but I otherwise am going nonstop
You
almost the
are.
whole time.
You
I don't
have
really
to
watch.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. Even
That's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I've watched very little TV, and what I do watch is recorded so that it's just in my time frame.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it's like, okay, so an hour show takes 40 minutes when you do it that way because you can fast
Yeah.
forward.
Right. Which show do you watch? Is it on Netflix or just like something you record?
Yeah, just things we record. Like I have a psych major, so I think I love I love Survivor because it's just fascinating, the
Oh,
human
yeah.
interaction, and so that kind of thing always interests me. And then a couple uh I like Law and Order and those kind of things.
Yeah, that you can binge watch on any given Saturday. Seems
Right.
like they have like these long marathons
Right.
everywhere, PSI or something. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
you read People magazine and kind of unwind, take a bath, and
Right.
yeah, that sounds good. I probably need to get a ritual. My thing,
Yep.
I crawl in bed at 7:30 and I can't. So
Oh.
because I'm just like I'm exhausted. Well, I get up, early and I don't sleep well either. And so I get up early and um, just that's kind of a little bit more of a productive time for me.
Hmm.
But I at night I'm just so exhausted and just want to. I probably need to get some type of ritual. I'll have to think about that.
It makes a big difference because it takes, otherwise, you're laying down with all the thoughts still going in your head of what you
Right.
didn't get done or you need to get done. And it takes me a little phase of turning them all off.
Hmm. So tell me how do you come to grips with that? Like when you've got so many irons in the fire and
Hmm.
everything's kind of going and you've spun all the plates, but then you feel like a couple of them. I mean, how do
Hmm.
you juggle that?
I keep a whiteboard with a list so that I can have the satisfaction of erasing them, but also that they're still there and I can just go find them on the list
Hmm.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Because otherwise I think about them too much. So keeping that list makes a really big difference for me, because I'm like, okay, these things on this list. And then I am a bit of a workaholic, so I'll work really late until, like, if something's really bothering me, I'll
Then
work
you
really
work.
late until I get it accomplished so
Mm-hmm.
that I can have it off the board and move on.
Is your board big? I'm sure it's
It is
huge.
big,
It's like a
yes.
teacher board, right? Like a schoolroom board.
No, I had to stop doing that. I did used to have that, I had to stop doing that because then the board had too much detail
Oh, so
and
now
too much.
it's
Yeah, so now it's more bigger picture. Like, I'll write the customer's name and then each of the things out next to it that I need to
okay.
do for them, and so then I can erase each of the little things until I get all the
Gotcha.
way down. But
Okay.
if I give myself that really big board, then I will, like, put all this detail and just overwhelm myself, and then I won't look at the board
Yeah.
because I'm overwhelmed.
And but you also, one of the things I noticed about you is you also have like you have a team of people that you like. Do you have a virtual assistant? You have a web
I do.
person?
My virtual assistant manages my any really high tech things for my website that, like, if I don't understand it or whatever, I can just
Mm-hmm.
pay her by the hour to do something for me. She works with me on some clients' projects, so she works on she builds the covers while I'm working on the interior, so that helps me, accomplish things faster. Plus, she's just better at those things than I am.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I do have a virtual assistant who does that, and that's very key. I also work with several editors, so I can have a project in multiple people's plates, different projects going on at the same time, and then I just need to get back to my plate, do my part. So that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, that does. That I think that's smart too, to kind of know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, and
Hmm.
farm those out to the right people. Finding the
Yes.
right people. I'm still kind of in the process of finding the right people for all the things that I need to
Right.
outsource. That's been hard for me. Just kind of, I haven't found the right people, but I think I've got a web person, and
Oh, good.
um, so that's been really helpful. But yeah, so what else? Like, what was like the best business advice anyone gave you? Because you have
Uh,
done a lot of business. You have
yeah, I
been
think
in
so.
business for a long
I
time.
have been. Yes, I have been. And I think the best advice and the best lesson I've learned in general is to bounce things off of a mentor, or having a good friends in business that you can call and say, "Hey, I've got this idea." Because my husband and I have had various ideas that we didn't run past a mentor or coach or whatever, and those were expensive lessons, so.
Yes. And I think that that is key. Of course, you and I are both Christians, and the Bible says to, where there are many advisors, there's victory. I think
Hmm.
that's so true. And there are times when I will look at people, and not in judgment, but in I guess trying to learn and trying to figure out what they're doing, and I'm like, who told you that was a good idea? Like, that's my question. Like, who are you going to? And these are like, Christians that I'm looking at. I'm thinking, wow, did you consult anyone and tell them your plan before you sunk all this money into this?
Right.
Because if you didn't, then, you're on your own. But if I mean, I just think it's very helpful, like you said, to have a mentor or an
Yeah.
advisory board that
Hmm.
you of people that you trust, and um, that are wise, that can give you feedback. And
Hmm.
even if they don't agree with you, at least going in, right? Going into
Right.
something, you're like, okay, well, I get that, you don't think this is going to work, but I really, in my gut, feel like it's the right thing to do.
Right.
But at the same time, they've addressed things with you that you can be aware of,
Hmm.
pitfalls and stuff. Because it's always helpful with, like, having other people um, give you advice on stuff and look at it from a different point of view. So that's really good advice. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite app? Do you have a favorite app?
For me,
iPhone?
yeah, I have an iPhone 6, and for me, it's really, really handy to have the main social media that I use, which is Twitter and Facebook apps. Those are just so useful to me because
Yeah.
I am on the go all the time, and like this weekend, my daughters have a dance competition, and I'll be there for hours upon hours on end, and I can catch up on social media. I can do those kind of things, while you're waiting and, to pick up somebody or whatever.
Hmm.
It makes it just handy that you can accomplish things during the downtime.
Yeah, yeah. I think that came up when we were I don't know if anybody was on my Facebook, but I periscoped you doing a
Hmm.
workshop a few months ago, and they were like, "Oh gosh, you guys are always on everything," and we're like, we don't really like we're not there hours at a time. We just kind of
Right.
we just hop on, do something, and then hop off.
Right.
And
Right.
it's not like we're spending hours and hours. And I think people need to know that because it makes it sound like we're like always on social
Right.
media because we have a
Right.
presence, but at the same time, we just kind of hop on and we know what to do and what we
Right.
want to share and who we want to follow. And, I have my little group that I like to check in on and, love on them and they love on me and we just kind of, interact, but it's not like I spend hours on it.
Right.
But yeah, I like those apps. I was going to say my favorite thing is I don't know if I have a favorite app, but I think I like Instagram app. Just
Hmm.
pretty.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I know my daughters do. They love Instagram.
They like Instagram. Is that the
Yeah.
latest for kids? Is Instagram and
And
Twitter?
Snapchat.
Oh yeah, Snapchat. Yeah. I still don't understand Snapchat. I mean, I get that it like disappears, but I mean, I think somebody's saving it somewhere, but it's like, what? Like you can't really save it. You can't.
Well, you can create a storyboard
Okay,
for
storyboard.
businesses, and yeah, and those last for 24 hours, and those are good for like if you're going to be in an event, and it allows people to kind of follow along with you on that event during the day. I have a friend in business who uses it very effectively,
Mhm.
um, and because her audience is all range of ages, so if that's where your audience is, then that's where you got to be.
True.
Um,
Yeah.
so my audience isn't necessarily hanging out on Snapchat, so I don't have to learn it. thank,
Right,
thank God.
right,
Right.
right. So I always ask people that come on the show, what is rocking your world right now? Like three things that you are absolutely loving that you just texted your girlfriend about something, could be anything.
Well, I love to cook and I love to create. So I'm absolutely loving, working on the recipe book. So, because I had a Bible study yesterday. It was our final one. So I brought bison chili, of course. And same
Mm-hmm.
with our writers group, our final one. I brought a different recipe of bison chili.
Oh, wow.
So it's just, for
I
me, it's
missed
really
that one.
fun to create things and share them because I love to share.
Mm-hmm.
So doing that is really just I seem to be, look at what I just did. I just here try this, that's fun and exciting to me. Um, and I have a group of really good business friends. We've been friends for many years, went through a lot together, and really just us we have a little message group that we message each other all, day, all week throughout the thing, kind of supporting each other
Mm-hmm.
through the good and the bad, and knowing that you have that little private group is just like phenomenal. That
That is
definitely,
really good. Yeah.
yes, that makes a huge difference. And we talk about personal stuff and we talk about business stuff, and we say, oh my gosh, look at what this you can screenshot what somebody said and send it and say, look what someone just said to me, and then the other person's like, it's okay, we love you,
Oh,
that kind
yeah. Because there
that
are
kind of
trolls out there.
oh yes,
And
yes.
you have probably the people that I know, you've had some trolls coming your way and have
I
been
did.
awful to you. And that was what,
Yes.
like 2 years ago? Or a
Well,
year?
I posted the blog post 2 years ago, but I still have the trolls.
Oh man.
Yeah, I shut down the comments on it so
I was
that
gonna
now they have,
say.
now they have to send me nasty emails, but they do.
They send you nasty emails because they can't post. Oh my
Because they
gosh.
can't post, or they put a message on another unrelated blog post, trying to get it through. But I have everything on moderation now after
Okay.
that. Anyway, but you have to learn to just kind of laugh off the trolls and not let them get to you,
Yeah.
because my message was just about telling the truth and
Hmm.
safety and honesty, and being transparent, and that offended people,
Hmm.
and that's okay.
It's okay. I mean, you were doing what you felt you needed to do. And, these people are like, I can't imagine, talk about not having something else better to do than
Right.
to sit there and, I mean, I can understand giving, like giving an opposing opinion. Like, I
Yes.
don't believe in what you're saying. This is not, but
Yes.
to go as far as like, you've had like, kind of like threats and being mean and
Uh-huh.
ugly and nasty. And that's
Yes.
just crazy. That's just
It
crazy.
is crazy. And I did allow a lot of those comments early on because I thought it reflected on that group of people, um, if effectively, without me having to say anything.
Right.
Now it's all been said and done, like all the threats and the ugly meanness and stuff have it's all been said and done. It's all there in history. And now when I get the emails, I just delete them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every once in a while I screenshot them and say, "Oh my gosh, look what this person wrote me."
That's funny. Yeah. Well, what else? What's your third thing?
What is my third thing? Rocking my world. I think the end of the school year is rocking my world.
Yes.
I'm so excited for it to be coming. My kids go to a very difficult school. So we just
Yes.
finished thesis season, and that was like huge hooray. And we just finished a 40-hour, not we, like they did it, but
Hmm.
as a mom, you're in
You're
there.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just finished their 40-hour projects. The last presentation is today, and winding all that down. It's also the winding down of the dance season. That is rocking my world. Just the
Yeah.
busyness of it, but the excitement of summer
Yes. Well,
coming.
I feel like when my kids were going to school, they were doing kind of the same thing, kind of part-time homeschool, part-time um, full-time school, which sounds kind of odd, but it is
Hmm.
best of both worlds where they're going to a private school 2 or 3 days a week
Right.
and then they're home two days a week. And I now that they're in public school, I do not miss the projects. Like public school here, they don't have as many projects. They have some, but they're all
Right.
done at school
Right.
in teams. And I love that. Like they don't have to bring, unless it's something extracurricular,
Hmm.
a science fair or something they want to enter. But oh gosh, I don't miss those school projects. Yeah. So what are you reading lately? You said you were reading some fluff, but what book are you reading right now?
Gosh, I have to think of what that was called. Um, I can't think of the fiction that I'm reading right now. It's just a continuation of a murder mystery series sort of thing.
Yeah, you like murder
Um,
mysteries? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That I'm doing that, and then actually I was just listening to an audio book, and it's called "How to Improve Your Marriage Without Saying Anything," and
I
it's
have heard
fascinating.
of that. Who's the author of that?
It's two authors, and I can't think of their names because I just started it this morning. I've been listening to it while I've been tweeting, and
Yeah.
all that. I've been scheduling tweets this morning.
Hmm.
So I was listening during that. It's a PhD and a EDD who did it. I can't remember their names right now, um, and I'm not sure if I can look at it while we're FaceTiming. Oh, I can look it up.
Yeah,
Hang on,
do.
I can tell you right now. Let's see. It is How to Improve Your Marriage Without Talking About It. It's by Patricia Love and Stephen Stosny. Um, and it's an excellent book. Because it's always good to read things. This one I happen to be listening to, so I can multitask.
Yes.
Um,
I
and
love books on tape. Or
yeah,
they don't
it's
have on tape
fabulous
anymore,
because you can
but
do it while you're driving into town or whatever you're
yes.
doing. And this one's great because it's great to, the things that are important to you, business, marriage, kids, all that, to be reading and getting good input, different, different people's ideas
Mm-hmm.
on how to do better at the things that are important to you.
One last question, and this just came to me. I want to know, do you take vacations? Do you take family vacations?
Mhm.
And where do you go? Like, where do you like to vacation?
We normally do. We haven't for the last few years because we're in startup phase of
Yes.
basically three businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in startup phase because we sold one. um,
Oh, okay.
so so that kind of really puts a lot of time commitment, especially my husband's businesses are very summer oriented. Um, and my daughters also are very serious dancers, so they get very little time off from dance as well. So normally we were, but the last few years we haven't been. So we've been doing staycations.
Yeah.
We live on 12 acres. We have a saltwater pool in our backyard and animals
Wow.
galore, like animal therapy here,
Mm-hmm.
that we can enjoy. Um, when we've gone on vacation, we've gone all kinds of places. I grew up all over the world, so sometimes going on vacation is exciting to find someplace new, and other times it's wanting my family to experience, what I experienced.
Yeah, where
So
you've been. Yeah.
yeah, so I had studied in Ireland, so we took a family vacation to Ireland, and that was like one of my favorites because this was a place I loved, and sharing it with my family was great. And
Yeah.
otherwise, we've gone on mission trips to India several times.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, and we've made really good friends with them. We actually are hosting them next month here at our house.
As a
So,
family, you guys went?
yes, and
Wow.
so we've gone a couple times. My husband's gone on his own a few times, and then other times we've gone as a family
Mm-hmm.
to work with a mission that has several church plants, an orphanage, and a school.
Okay.
So, and that mission's just become really close to our hearts. So that's a neat outing for us. Um, but you normally need to go for like 2 weeks, which has been a little bit harder in the last few years.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to go where you're there for a while because it takes so long to get there. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Well, thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
on. This was so fun. And I hope that people can find you on all the social media stuff. And I'll have all that on, on the show notes too, so that they can connect with you. But thanks for coming on. This was so much fun getting to know you a little bit more and asking you all those questions that I've been wanting to ask, but we don't have time because when we have writers group, we're just like everybody's kind of sharing their stuff and we're
Yeah.
in and out, and so this was fun.
Thank you so much for
Thanks.
having me. It's been great.
Thank you. That was my conversation with Kayla. I told you she had so much to give, and there's so much information on this podcast. All of the information will be on the show notes at CorineSandiford.com. Go under Rising Stories Podcast, under Kayla Fioravanti, and you'll see all the information that she shared with us. So much stuff, and it was all really, really good. She is also offering our listeners a 20% discount on all of her audio recordings from her classes, which is chocked full of more great information. So you're going to want to go over there and put in the promo code Rising Stories 20. So that's the promo code for getting 20% off of her audio recordings. Thanks for joining, and also follow me on Instagram. I'm going to be doing a giveaway soon, and I know you're going to want to get in on this one. So thanks so much for joining me and listening and spending this time with me, and we will catch you next week for another episode of Rising Stories. Bye.